Hi, this is Paul Rodriguez reporting for thepopview.com. I've heard about the famous Pat's and Geno's, but I've always heard those supposed to be real touristy spots. So I want to try something different. Here, this is Ishkabibble's behind me, and we decided to go there and try out the cheesesteaks and see how they are. And I am happy to report they were very good. So what we decided to do was, consulting my menu here, we decided to get the South Philly cheesesteak, which has roasted peppers, spinach, and provolone cheese. And when they were cooking it on the grill, I was a little skeptical because they really chopped the steak up very, very fine. But I have to say, the meat was excellent, and the spinach and the roasted peppers add some moisture to it. So you really didn't even need to put any mustard or ketchup or anything else on it. Had a lot of moisture to it. The roll was very, very good. So I would give it 2 thumbs up. They also have their specialty drink, the Gremlin, which is grape juice and lemonade. I liked it very much. The tartness of the lemonade balances out the sweetness of the grape juice. So another thumbs up. So right down the street here on South Street, we're going to go to Jim's and try them out next. Okay, so we did Ishkabibble's and just come from Jim's, and there's a great deal of debate about exactly what's good about Ishkabibble's or bad about Jim's, but the scores are in, and absolutely 100% Jim's loses on this one. Meat not as good, the rolls not as good. There was a greasiness there, I guess we can all debate about exactly what it was that made the difference, but definitely Jim's was not snuff. In this case, we happen to have the cheesesteak with fried onions and provolone. I kind of suspect if you were to have a whiz, the famous cheese whiz topping that you see so often on Philly cheesesteak, that might have beefed up the flavor of the steak, but in my opinion, if you're counting on the cheese to make up for the meat, you got big problems right there. So there's the big cheesesteak taste-off. Ishkabibble wins, Jim's loses. So this past weekend, I made a spur-of-the-moment trip to Philadelphia to have a cheesesteak taste-off. And I'd like to just review a little bit now the results. I've had a chance to consult with a colleague of mine who used to go to school in Philadelphia and who it turns out knows a heck of a lot more about it than I do, because I started with, I think, perhaps a flawed assumption, which is that you have the 2 famous touristy places, Pat's and Geno's, and therefore I was stepping a little outside of the mainstream by going to Ishkabibble and Jim's. And what I am told by this colleague of mine is that, in fact, Jim's is a touristy place. And while Pat and Geno's are the really well-known cheesesteak places and have the famous rivalry, that in fact a lot of locals also go to those places. So given that, the fact that I found Jim's so disappointing turns out to not be such a big surprise after all. This colleague of mine prefers Ishkabibble's, actually, above any of the other choices. So if I had to do it over again, I think I would have chosen some different places to go to. But I think perhaps a return trip is in the future, and we'll try a couple of the other places. Another strategic mistake I think I made was I went with the provolone cheese, and my thinking was, you know, that the famous topping is the whiz, right? Cheese whiz, and I know it wasn't going to go that way. But I think, again, based on the results that I found and the recommendations of this colleague of mine, is that I think American cheese actually probably would have been the smarter way to go. Now, on the face of it, you think, American cheese. Why would you want American cheese? It's not even real cheese. But I think in this case that the provolone in this kind of a sandwich was just a little too bland. And I think the American cheese, or even for that matter the Cheese Whiz, would have had a sharpness that would have assisted in the overall flavor of the sandwich. One more comment I'd like to address is the meat quality again. When I was at Ishka Bibbles and they were chopping up the meat, very, very fun, and I was very, very skeptical about this, but the texture, the resulting texture was really excellent, and so therefore I think that actually is a point in the favor of that kind of style of cheesesteak production. Again, I want to emphasize the quality of the meat at Ishka Bibble versus Jim's was just dramatic. And just overall, the Jim's had a kind of, sort of off, mass-produced, sort of queasy, greasy sort of quality to it that just kind of really hung around, repeat on you a little bit afterwards. So there we go, just some final end notes to the Philly cheesesteak taste-off. Look for a sequel with some more cheesesteaks, hopefully sometime in the coming months. And there you go. From thepopview.com, this is Paul Rodriguez reporting.